I was going to the NFT to meet Asif, and I had a half an hour to spare. And so I was looking along the bookstores outside, and I saw a name I knew, Sarah Maitland, picked up a really doggy old Virago press paperback of her short stories, opened it, and I happened to open it at a 4-page short story called True North. So I had time to read it before Asif arrived. I pitched it to him, and that was that.
So I read it and I thought, this is fantastic. This is really a brilliant story, very, very short and tight. Now, how do we develop it into a longer film? And then about 3 years ago, I think it was, my first film, The Warrior, was shown at a film festival in the Arctic in Tromsø in Norway. So I went to the festival, and I actually didn't see any films on that trip at all. I just took a car and I went on a little scout. I went on a little recce, and it was in January, and I saw the Northern Lights at night, and I went on a husky ride, and I just thought, this is brilliant. We could shoot that movie right outside of Tromsø, a big town. But my driver, this young student who was driving me around, said, no, you've got to go to this other place. There's this place called Svalbard, and it's amazing. You'll love it. So I asked him if he'd ever been there. He said, no, I've never been there. I dream about going to this place. So I then went away and did a bit of research on Svalbard, and I saw how spectacular it looked, and I thought, okay, if we could set the movie there, then we've got a really amazing, harsh landscape that somehow can motivate the actions of the characters. And that was about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, maybe even more.
Saiva contacted me about 4.5 years ago actually, and had this crazy idea to make a film. I specialise in polar regions, so I read the first version of the script and liked it because it was different, and I thought, well, maybe we'll get this financed, maybe not. I didn't think it would take 4.5 years before we'd be shooting, so it was a much longer process than planned. But
Jason Roberts, this crazy Australian who used to work in the city and then decided to move up to live in the top of the world, and who shoots things for Attenborough and people like that. He's a real specialist in shooting polar bears in particular.
start the scooter! Start the scooter! Jump on, jump on! Jump on! Get on! Woof!
Jason became a real key link. Okay, so we're in Coles Bay, came here last October. It's an old mining town which is empty. There's lots of buildings dotted around. Essentially it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's about 10 buildings in all. It's a really nice old kind of, I don't know if it's a mill or a mine shaft or something at the top of the hill which we're going to stop and have a look at. So we've got these buildings around us, lots of junk dotted around. There's a pier behind us, a jetty. It's almost like a desert landscape.
I sent Asif on a recce, and he came back with images that look fantastic. So I said, yeah, we definitely have to work out how to shoot in this place. Do you know of any movies that shot there? No, not really. What kind of facilities are there? Well, we've got 800 people on an island the size of Ireland, but you've got 3,000 or 5,000 polar bears, which is an indication that wildlife is pretty impressive.
So quick debrief, this is day 2 up in Longyearbyen. We crossed the sea ice. That's my first experience of travelling on a snowmobile across the actual frozen sea, which is quite amazing, quite scary. Very, very windy. I couldn't see anything with my glasses on and with the goggles on, so one of them had to go, which meant I went with the goggles. So I was driving pretty blind. Very cold. How cold would you say it is, Jason, out there?
It's minus 12 plus wind chill factor.
Minus 12 plus wind shield, so it felt like
20 but below.
probably minus 20 or something like that is what it was. Very, very cold. Can't think, can't talk. You've got to wear all the clothes, so you can't literally communicate and think unless the person's right next to you. So I have no idea how you would actually direct a sequence in that. So we're at Temple Fjord. That's Temple, which was my favourite location that we saw in the autumn. I think it's the 17th of March today, and so this is what it looks like when it's frozen. Down there is our frozen glacier, and we came along here by boat. And that's the temple. All of this is a frozen fjord with chunks of ice sticking out, and we've just driven across the fjord over there. And it's pretty amazing looking. We knew we were going to be shooting up in the Arctic, coming up towards winter. It's going to be very cold. It's going to be pretty harsh. We didn't have nice 5-star hotels to put our actors in. So there was definitely an element that we were very much aware. I wanted to cast people who were going to get into the whole style of the movie. Essentially, when I met with all of the actors, a lot of the meeting was spent me trying to sell them the movie and wanting them to do the project and how amazing it was going to be, and scaring them with, how far north we were going to be on the globe, but then also explaining how we trying to find the right balance to say we won't have nice hotels, we'll be living on a ship, but it's going to be a nice ship. I've been on this type of ship and it's actually fine, and I think a lot of our crew were pretty worried by the idea of filming on a boat. And I think in hindsight everyone's like, oh my god, it was the most amazing time of our lives and what an amazing shoot, but at the time it was really hard. People were going crazy.
This is something that's going to be done very quickly, like the time I went bungee jumping in Thailand. Ah! Oh, it's fucking freezing!
Funny that.
Yes!
There's no escape, you're filming all day long with each other, you eat together, but you then have dinner together, and then you're all in the bar together, or you can't get off the boat.
Yeah.
I'd always heard good things about Michelle Yeoh. My casting director thought she was a great actress and a really amazing professional to work with, and we thought she'd be perfect for us.
The first time I met him was in Sundance. We had exchanged a couple of emails, to try and meet up, and he was filming in Los Angeles, and I so happened to be in America, and I thought it would be a perfect time to meet, because normally I like to do films where I know the director. When I speak to the director, I get an instinct, a gut feeling of whether they are doing me a sales pitch or they feel for that film. And when you find a director that feels for his movie, when it is a dream that needs to be realized, I would like to be part of that, because then it is very special.
That's good, because then the soldiers might be there behind you. And we can see it, but they can't. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And we sent her the script, and she liked the script, and she was interested. I showed her like a 2-minute promo that we put together, and I think that the images really blew her away, and she was really interested by that. And I think what she's told me afterwards, it was just a meeting. She does a film depending on who the director is, and we got along really well. So she sounded pretty interested, and from that day onwards, whatever happened with us trying to finance the film and any delays that we thought we might have had, she stuck with us. She was going to do the film, she was interested in the project, she was interested in this character of Saiva. And so once we got her on board, I felt pretty happy, because once you've got your lead actor, then, you know, hopefully all the other things will fall in place.
I first heard about the project through my manager. She asked if I'd be interested in putting myself on tape for this project, and it was through this casting director, who's a very reputable casting director out of New York, who does really fantastic films.
She came in very cleverly in character, and she came in very simple, no makeup, her hair was very simple, her clothes were simple, came in slippers, and I thought she was great. And she came in, her voice as well, she came in she played a very simple, non-accented sort of voice, and I was totally sold. And so we did a few I filmed it, and I thought she was great. We met the next day, and she came in her LA persona, which really threw me, because her accent was very, very much Los Angeles, and she had makeup on, and she had her hair done in a way that she would normally do, and I was terrified.
And I was immediately hooked. I mean, I got so excited, and I think right there from the beginning, there was something in my gut that just told me this was going to be an incredible project, and that I would do just about anything to get on board.
And working with the two Michelles, you know, they've been fantastic, you know, under the kind of conditions that we've been working in, and it's quite different from working in Los Angeles. I mean, vastly different.
The casting of Loki came down really right down to the last minute almost. And in the end, it came down very, very late in the day when I was able to think about, what about Sean?
Steve got back in touch with me, and we had a conversation when I was in New Mexico, I think, in America, and chatted about it, and that was it then. We sort of said, yeah, let's get on with it. Yeah.
It was that classic thing of, I always try to meet actors and want to meet them again. But with Sean, literally, I met him once, and then a few months later, we had a phone call whilst I was in an Ethiopian restaurant with some friends. I was desperately waiting for his phone call during all weekend to see if Sean was interested. And then it came down to a few friends were going away, and I had to go to this meal. And in the middle of the meal, the phone rang, and I had to run out and sit in my friend's car to just have a bit of peace and quiet and do this, essentially pitch to Sean, who was in New Mexico, and I was in Kentish Town in the car park. And we had this chat, and then and there we sort of had to see whether or not he was interested and whether it was going to happen. And he said he wanted to do it. And again, it's really nerve-wracking, because we're not talking face to face. It's just like, okay, we'll meet in a few months' time, hopefully in the Arctic. And that's what happened. I didn't get all of the actors together again until rehearsals. And you just pray your instincts are right.
Everyone has to live on a ship, which is a Russian-registered ship called the PolarX. I've done a few feature films before, and It always works well, but everyone is so skeptical, and there is no roads here. Everything has to be moved by Zodiac. So yeah, we cheated on the first location. We flew a lot, but yesterday, setting up this glacial location, we had to come in by hotel ship, move about 40 ton of equipment into Zodiacs, which are rubber inflatable boats, drive them a kilometre to the beach, lift it out of the boat onto a snowmobile sled, and then drive a couple of kilometres up onto the glacier, where we pre-rigged it and basically made the whole area safe for crevices, build a massive base camp and put all this equipment in there before we can even start shooting and before we can even eat lunch.
Ska vi ut och sätta upp base camp? Maybe I should say this in English.
Yeah,
We are now at the boat called Farm. We are on our way to Tempelfjorden to put up the base camp. The base camp tent, 250 square meters of tents. It's still 5 days until the rest of the crew arrives. So we go on the front and we put up the base camp and the portaloos and yeah, everything.
Is there any difficulties putting up this base camp?
I don't know. I've never done it before.
Well
I know nothing.
Hi, my name is Lasse, and I'm a folkeslask on this expedition. That means they use me for everything and nothing.
This is probably the most northern portable loo ever. We're on 79.5 degrees north of Longyearbyen.
Yeah, the numbers of people and equipment, we started off as a small budget feature film and hoping that the crew wouldn't be more than 40, maybe 45, and I think the crew at the moment, actually on the glacier shooting, is well over 70. So.
We're now waiting for orders to where we're going to put the stuff in the Zodiac. So now we're on our way into shore, and there is one helicopter over there waiting for us to carry the heavy stuff up to the base camp.
It was so cold that we had to heat a tent up on the location for us to load the mags in. A few times the film became so cold and brittle that it actually tore inside of the magazine, and it happened on a couple of occasions, and the camera department, who are pretty experienced, said they'd never seen anything like it.
In Paradise Island. You know, quietness, the beach, a bit of sun there, you know, not too many tourists, good accommodation, some animals, some wildlife, supposedly coming, you know, to meet our rifles. Pretty good stuff here. We should bring more people.
What has been really wonderful being out here and seeing it filmed, seeing it happen, is that one of the main characters in the film is the landscape, because Saiva and Anja are living such a harsh, distant life, far from everyone. And the landscape, it has got that loneliness, it's got that chill in it.
There are a tribe in northern Russia, in Siberia, called the Nenet. And this is very loosely based on their things.
They have very large tents, and they're slightly wider than the kind of North American teepees. And the sledges that we have today are based loosely on Nennet sledges. But like all things, it's pulling little bits from here and there. But essentially, that's the main tribe that we've looked at. Although there are little bits of Inuit and little bits of Finnmark nomadic tribes. It's a mixture of all sorts of things, really.
In front of us, we see the Tuna Glacier. This is where we're going to film the next 5 days. On the right-hand side, you can see the edge we're filming on. The interesting part about this glacier is that it's actually growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. The thing is that the front part of the glacier is getting close to the sea, where it's melting. And on top of the glacier, it's snowing. So that means that the glacier is getting heavier and heavier on the top for every year. And then after a while, approximately 100 years, it appears that it gets so heavy on top, so it forces away downwards in a quite a sudden movement, which creates a glacier that are moving for like 200-300 meters within a couple of years.
The place is constantly surprising you. You don't know what's around the corner, and I think also it's just got a sense of tension and danger, because it's quite dangerous here. So I think that comes across when you go anywhere. You never know when the ice might crack. You never know when the glacier might fall. You don't know when the weather's going to come in. And so what we're trying to do is use all of those elements within our story.
As it progressed, I didn't realize just how special Svalbard is, because I didn't know much about it. And as I've been spending more time, I didn't realize it was sort of the last settlement before you reach the North Pole. And really, it was a big mystery to me. Everything I sort of read was really kind of intellectual. Being out here is a whole other world.
Oh, unless you can sit on it more, yeah. That's good.
The fact that we're out here does really add to the sense of isolation and the desperation. But in some way that really helps to focus your mind on what you're doing, because there's nothing else to do. And you're on an island, or you're in a glacier. You can't go and sit in your trailer and watch a DVD or something. You just stand there.
Max, take 10 paces towards that.
Just behind us here now, we have the crew. Most of the people are collected in the area down there. One of our most important jobs is to protect people against polar bears. At this time of the year, there are plenty of polar bears in the area, approximately 3,000. And we have to be very careful against the polar bears, because they're very good swimmers. So if you see out here, they can easily swim in from the ocean and come straight up on the beach. The thing is, they're not afraid of human beings, they don't have any natural enemies, and they look at us as a good piece of meat. So if they attack us, they will eat us. So to protect our crew, we have a shotgun here, and down there as well we have another 2 people with shotguns, and also a Smith & Wesson Magnum 44, 2 of them actually, and so we should be well protected. But if you don't look after them, that could be a disaster. So that's my job today, is to be up here, be bear watch, and inform the others via the radio channel, and inform the people that there's a bear in the area. Hopefully we won't see any bears. In this location we don't want that. It's okay when you sit on a ship, but when you're working here, we really don't want any polar bears in the area. So right now I gotta keep on watching, so yeah. That's a polar bear. Hopefully as close as we get.
Even though that this glacier is extremely active, we've actually got a crew of about 75 people, a kilometre and a half up on it, filming in the crevice region. We're working on the unactive zone, on the edge of the active zone where this ice is flowing down.
We're too heavy! Okay, wait, don't drop it! Ah, do it! I've dropped it! No! I've dropped it! There, guys, hold it there, please, guys. If I pick one on the end, B marker!
What we're doing, we're working with the actors, the camera crew, and production in general to rig and facilitate the filming of a scene that involves falling down a crevasse. It's quite a complicated scene. It's going to take us probably about 3 or 4 days to do it. Just drop it down about... I'm going to keep it on the rope. I just want to measure the distance. Okay, this is the bit I love to hate. Cutting these grooves in the ice. I used to do it with an ice axe and it takes forever, but with a chainsaw you have to be really, really careful it doesn't kick back. But ice is pretty constant, so it's actually a lot easier than cutting wood. But you have to be really, really careful down here because obviously you've got ropes and we're in a remote place. Just taking it steady, cutting, so we'll put like 3 or 4 scaffolding tubes across here, and then we'll lay a wood platform on it, and this will be a tripod base to film looking up. And then what we'll probably do is build one as half height for a fall sequence as well afterwards. But we're just starting this one. Once we get this platform in, we'll get a ladder up here and that'll give access for the camera crew to get down here.
Come on, you wee man, get a move up. Hold your back.
Right now, a fairly deep hole, and what we're going to do is we're going to work out how each of you, when Saiva goes around there, pull us a rope. Whoops. You get led over here, a little bit too late, you see the ledge, and you come to a stop. And just as you come to a stop, and I think you would be telling the other guys to slow down.
Looking at the moment is the most northern crane on Earth, ever. And probably for the last time. One and only.
Because they haven't tried this system before they put everyone down, so it's quite hard to hang in the harness. So.
How was it?
Hello there. My inner thighs are just torn out.
Your stamina. It's like one cold day after a cold day after a cold day. It's when it adds up, really.
What's been the hardest part with this mission?
It's just every simple thing becomes quite difficult when it's so cold, or when you're on a glacier, or when you're on a boat. So it's very, you have to be organised, and maybe I'm not always the best organised person. I like to improvise when I'm on the set, and to react to what's happening, and that becomes hard because any changes take a long time. So I think that's a learning curve.
But I think it's actually filming in Norway, where we were in Svalbard, where we were in the bleakness of the cold and the very, very empty, stark, harsh, cruel environment, that you begin to understand just a little bit, maybe scratch the surface of what it takes to be able to live alone, to be able to survive, to be able to, to express herself.
Well, in the film we see seals being hunted, and it's really an in-depth part of the northern culture. I often say they're a bit like the cows of the north. We've loaned the seal from actually a friend of ours in Longyearbyen who's got a lot of dogs, so he wanted to feed his dogs this winter, so I said, if we don't skin the seal, can we rent your seal for 4 weeks before he skins it? So we've got it on rental, so then it's going to one of the local hunters who actually hunted it.
Roberto, what if we have them both in the left of frame? If we have both left.
Yes, sir, we're just checking now. Michelle Yeoh has done a lot of stunt work already in Hong Kong cinema and Chinese cinema, so she's as tough as nails. So I was never really worried about her doing her own stunts in the film. And I think she was quite into it. She wants to get her hands dirty, literally. And she was willing in the boot camp to do everything and anything, including gutting a reindeer and I think eating raw liver or something. So she was well into it. I was not really worried about her. I wanted someone that we could actually show doing things in the film.
Apparently no feature film has been shot so far north. Yes, I can understand that. You know, it's extremely difficult just simply, you know, you can see it. Like we saw a carving the other day, and I thought, oh, I wish we could have captured that on camera. But when you really think about just how much of the gear and how many people's safety, and it's freezing cold, your limbs, your fingers and your toes, they freeze up quickly, and as soon as that sets in, you know, mobility becomes very difficult. I mean, I'm packed right now, I think I have maybe 6 layers on. You know, that's just the start of your day. Now you have to add on top of that lugging equipment. The idea of doing artistry in this environment is really impossible, but we're getting it done.
How are your feet, Michelle?
My feet are cold. Saiva, they're...
Come on, man.
This location is, the sea started to freeze over, so we happened to have come here on a day when the wind's blown all the ice into the corner of the glacier, and it's compacted it a bit, and so we're cheating it as if it's the sea freezing over. On other days the weather's been blowing that way, there's been no icebergs around here, so when we have the particular conditions we have to come in here and shoot it. Also our boats got stuck in here, so rather than us moving the boats to the location, we've just come to where the boats are. And so we're going to try and do it before the tide starts to come in again and everything is washed away. But you just make your way to that second spot where you do stop. Yeah. It's really better to be testing with your right.
And I think the people that are involved with it, you know, are incredible. You know, I mean, like yesterday we were sort of knee deep in water. The crew were carrying lump cameras, boxes, this, that, trekking across glaciers, you know, and doing that day in, day out. Yeah, and that's really tough, but it's extremely rewarding at the same time.
So we got to the end of Svalbard. We managed to survive that section, which is part one of the shoot. It'd been 4 weeks on location, living on a ship, sharing rooms, sleeping on bunk beds. We were shooting 6-day weeks. We only had 1 day off in town in Longyearbyen for good behaviour at the end of each week. It was pretty tough, but we managed to get through it. We finished off eating quite well. It was all pretty civilised after the shoot had started by us eating out of metal mess tins on set in the cold. We ended up being able to eat proper lunch and dinner on the ship, so that was good. We lost quite a few crew at this stage for various reasons. People moved on and we had to replace people as we went off to the mainland. One of the key people we lost was our chef, our French chef, so we ended up having to find someone new. But somehow we got to the end, everyone was pretty cheerful, and we moved on to the next section, which we thought should have been a bit more straightforward, which was shooting on the mainland. But of course that brought its own problems.
Finally! I've got rid of them all! Go! Go!
We'll snare you again.
I remember as we were on the bus heading back to the airport, Roman, the cameraman, and I were a little bit upset in a way because the landscape as we were leaving looked exactly the way we wanted it to look when we arrived, and we had a big problem really. When we arrived on Svalbard, it was totally brown, there was no snow at all, and it was only as we were leaving the location looked the way it had looked on every location recce we had done in the past. So we now had to begin our transition to the mainland to start on stage 2 of the shoot. We returned back to Tromsø where it all began with my trip to the film festival. This is also where our production office was based, here in the back of Ruben, our production manager's cafe. It was quite strange to see cars and traffic lights and people walking their dogs again after so much time out in the wilderness.
Make sure Jason gets a copy of the photos.
Film camp was a converted army base. It was where Ben Scott and his team built the interior tent sets, and it was from here we either shot in here or we shipped them over to the UK. We were based inside of a huge aircraft hangar. We had use of half of the aircraft hangar for our sets, and the other half the army still had use of, and it's where they parked their tanks, and they used to lay out all of their guns and equipment so they could count them and clean them. So it was quite surreal to walk into it, where literally on one side there was a big machine gun or something, and on the other side was our tent that was meant to be set somewhere in, you know. One of the biggest problems on the film was always going to be trying to find the right balance between how many daylight hours we had to shoot, which were getting shorter and shorter as we were heading into the winter in the Arctic. It all came to a head when Saiva found Ivar and his family dead in Flashback 2. We had major weather problems on it. We had sunshine on one day, we had snow on another day, and the rest of the time it was raining like hell. So we were pretty much flooded during that sequence. And somehow we had to find a way to shoot it, get it all done in the amount of time we had, and make it all match in the finished cut. We are now finally about to do something with some reindeer. I'm told we have 250 reindeer. We've got our characters on sledges. We're on this big, vast, open lake, which is frozen over. Lovely mountains. We've got some snow. And so this is the big scene where Saiva, in her flashback, comes down and comes across Eva and his family with their huge reindeer herd. I'm told. Somewhere we have 250 reindeer. I can't see any right now, but I think they're somewhere hidden back there.
Right, okay.
Do you want to try?
Belt goes over his tunic.
Because Gary has lied that he
Yeah.
might start playing.
I don't have anything to say.
You just button it. Yeah, kind of. Zip it, nip it.
We see for the first time the people on the move in the landscape, and so we have various family members and children along with reindeer and working with reindeer closely. So nobody's quite sure what's going to happen. We have some reindeer experts who are Sami people, which is the tribe, the nomadic tribe in northern Norway, which is where we are now. Who have reindeer and work with reindeer closely, and although obviously nowadays they don't use sledges anymore, they use helicopters and motorbikes and things like that. So although we've rehearsed and practiced and done lots of things, nobody's quite sure how these 200 reindeer and the sledges and the actors are all going to work together. But I'm sure something will happen.
We're losing 20 minutes of daylight every day. So by the end of the shoot, we only had about 4 hours of shootable daylight. We had to bring the reindeer in from quite a few hours away. We had to build a couple of kilometres long fence to keep them in. They had to get used to the location where we were going to shoot it. We were actually shooting it on an army base, and the firing range was right behind us, and so it was quite a difficult location to shoot on. And the big sequence where Saiva and Eva travel by sledge with the reindeer was always something that was quite important to me in the script. But when it came down to it, we ran out of daylight and we just didn't get the shot. We had 3 cameras there, we had laid a huge long track, and it was all built and ready, and we ran out of daylight. Because of how tight our schedule was and because of the fact we were running out of daylight and we only had the reindeer for a couple of days, I believe, there was no way that we could just cancel and all come back the next day because we had to move on to shoot another sequence. So when we didn't manage to get the long tracking shot, we just had to move on, and the second unit had to come back to shoot the sequence on our behalf. I think the timing was good. Then it gets a bit messy because they go off in the background. And
where are they supposed to go?
They're going to go where they're going to go. I think they're always going to head off there because this is where they've been like resting. In a perfect world, they go through that way.
500? Yeah. So pretty much up there.
Yeah, that's really low.
Little shirt there.
It was a Platgel silicone piece, very soft, and basically what we had to do is put the piece over, and underneath that there's a rig for blood tubing going off to a pressurised gun. So basically, as soon as the gun's fired, it forces blood out of the wound.
Got a proper pair of what CDs are these? The other thing is that we'll see how big the spout is to see if you actually think you're actually going to see it. It's not up.
We've got some water in there.
1, 2, 3. Might be too much. We can make it less, we can make it more, we can do it. That's why we want to test it.
It will be, the blood will be thicker than that, won't it? So it will come out quicker and slower.
It has to be thinned, yeah, so...
Say when.
Okay.
I'll just stand here for now.
Ready?
Do a little bit of movement as if...
Ready?
Just to see what happens when you move. So.
Ready? Sorry, 1.
Head up, head up.
Покажи его, давай. Ох ты. Да кончай его нахуй. Покажи.
On my first film, we shot in temperatures that were plus 50 degrees centigrade. And on Far North, on a recce, I was travelling around and it was nearly minus 40. But for me, the worst shooting day was when it was raining. And this particular sequence, I remember feeling that there was a real tension in the air. The cast and the crew, everyone was in the foulest mood. Because there's nothing worse than shooting when your clothes are soaked through and you just know you're not going to be able to get changed at them for quite a few hours, and you're going to have to lug all the equipment back out of the mud, clean it all, before you can actually put it away.
We're going to leave this place in a few days. It will be scary because going to Tromsø and going to the mall was a scary experience after coming back from Longyearbyen. London. So many people.
That's great.
That's good.
That's great. Thanks, Nick.
That lamp behind, all right, sir?
Yes, fine.
That's good.
Thank you.
You right,
I think this ending is totally appropriate for what the story is, and it has to really end this way. The baggage, the past that the characters are carrying with them are pushing them in that direction, and that's where it has to go.
So that's going to be the first cut. The second cut's even scarier.
Because it's right around the eye, is that it?
It's the idea of the knife coming towards your eye.
Right.
We don't have to see the image, but it's just the knife coming towards it, and for you to be looking blankly away, and the knife comes towards the eye.
Right. Is it going to touch my actual skin? Because I don't know if I can.
I'd say no, because it's too sensitive. Right?
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll.
Find particularly women's faces, because they're a lot more sort of perfect, and there are less sort of lines and wrinkles. It's the lines and the wrinkles that make it look more realistic.
Now, what I wonder is it worth doing one where we have the blood now in, and we just go over the same line, so your hand kind of covers up the first part, and we just get a reveal.
the things that kind of sell it are, you know, if you can sort of get to if you've got enough time and, you know, patience, and you can get all the eyelashes individually punched and all the eyebrows done, and the hairline as well. It's all, you know, all the hairs are put in one by one. But I think that kind of helps sell the whole sort of thing. 'Cause if you, looks like a pizza. Looks like a margarita.
Pizza, margarita. Does actually.
Craft services. Hungry?
Yeah.
Anyone?
All this stuff on the floor should go. That's what she dragged her out.
I mean, so what this all comes down to, I suppose, is that all of these elements, the big ship, the icebreaker from Russia, the small ships, the Zodiacs, the snowmobiles, the dogs that we had to bring from the mainland.
Yeah, they need to be jabbed.
The
they
reindeer.
need to be jabbed before the movie was supposed to happen because they have quarantine. And
the reindeer, the babies, bringing actors from LA, from Malaysia, via Paris, and another actor that we cast over the phone who happened to be in New Mexico. All this to make a really simple film about 3 people in a tent. That's what I quite like.
I really look forward to reading
the next one's really simple.
Yeah, great.
Read the next
How many
script.
people?
2 people. 2 people standing still.
Okay. Bring the
Easy.
map. Just in case.